welcome back to the Crown Ash podcast. So we have a cigar men's group here in the Tampa Bay. We cycle through lounges, but it's basically getting a bunch of high-level men together. We noticed there's a million different networking groups in Tampa, but what we're all looking for, and Kyle started here, is that we're looking for a place that we didn't have to feel like we were going to get sold in a room, and that we could just kind of hang out with peers and not feel sold. People have like baseline, people are humble, curious, and have kind of a servant's heart, right? So today we have Brandon. He joined the group about 6 months ago?
Yeah, about
6 months ago?
A couple months ago.
Yeah.
It was 2 months.
Yeah.
A
couple months ago. Didn't want to over.
I feel like I've known you forever, right?
Yeah, it does.
So,
it does feel that
you
way.
came down from Philadelphia. So, Pittsburgh.
Pittsburgh, but yeah.
Okay. So I'd like to get into that, just like kind of on your story. Like what brought you down to Tampa? What was the appeal?
Yeah, sure. So, honestly, the appeal was just the amazing weather. That was the first thing, because Pittsburgh does not have great weather. And transparently, I was in a place in life where I didn't have to, I already built businesses, I exited a company, so on and so forth. So it wasn't necessarily financially, it was just more lifestyle that I started a family. I have 2 kids under 2. My wife and I vacation down here all the time, and we were just why don't we live here, right? So long story short, we were just why not? And the biggest barrier was our parents. We both have parents that we wanted in our kids' lives, and we were able to get everybody to migrate down. So that's...
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Amazing.
So my parents came down, her parents came down. So we have the whole family unit down here. But that was the biggest thing, was just the weather, the culture, the people. And then now it has been the business and the commerce. It's been amazing, but it originally just started because we just really wanted to be here. So
amazing. Yeah. And when I first met you, you were talking about, I think I was almost just retired at 31, and I just came down here to give it one last shot. And I was like, okay, you done well. But something I've always noticed about you, and that's why I'm so grateful to have you in the group, is that you have extreme humility. You've had a strong degree of success at a young age, which we can get into, and kind of what that meant. But you have a very humble attitude. When I ask you about, hey, how's business going? You're not always trying to showboat how great it is. You're like, you know what? I'm very blessed. It's a lot of work. I'm figuring it out day by day. And I'm there's 2 kinds of people. There's 2 kinds of business owners, rather.
Yeah.
There's business owners that are solving problems, business is war. And then there's liars, right? So, business is truly war. You have many times in the trenches. The key is to try, do your best to enjoy it, do it with people you love. And then, you have these peaks, and people usually get to see the peaks. So
Totally.
So given that, going back to Philadelphia, you were the number 1 hard money loan guy in the area. What was the stat, just so you are aware?
We've won awards nationally. We've been named the number 1 private and hard money broker in the country. It was in 2022. We won that out of 4,000 plus brokers. That was part of an association that is a brokers association that we were a part of, and they have, again, over 4,000 members, and we won overall broker of the year. So. And it's from a variety of factors. It's obviously volume and how much we're doing, but it's also quality and speed and just our ability to grow and scale, and our reviews. And they were looking at it pretty holistically, because all those things are really important besides just volume, but volume was obviously a big factor. So, so we won that in 2022. And then I also won their Rookie of the Year in 2020. I started the business in 2019, and then in 2020, we really took off through COVID and lockdown because of alternative financing. Banks stopped lending, so a ton of people came to us, and we helped people with the PPP, the relief, capital that businesses needed to, and all that stuff.
Oh, that as well.
So it was just a really interesting. It was obviously unfortunate, what happened to the country, but it was. We were able to capitalize on being able to help a lot of folks that really helped us grow our business that first year.
Yeah.
So,
I did the best during COVID as well. Everyone's their life, they turned down, they hit a van, they hit the road. I'm dude, my life cranked up to 20, with the real estate market, and with me being as well. So what do you think? You said you didn't really run a whole lot of ads. It was really relational based in Philadelphia. What do you think attributed to you having that degree of success? Because you're a very relationship driven person. So what I want for people to gain the value of is what creates that kind of success from a relationship basis?
Yeah. So, for us, to your point, like we didn't run ads, like it was just, we didn't at all. Like I think I tested it out one time, put like $50 into it, got nothing. I'm like, I don't know that I want to do this. But
it always feels like a trash can to me.
Yeah.
I'm just tossing money in it, just burning it.
and just like paying Facebook. I'm like, come on. Or even Google ads or whatever the case may be. I'm just like, I can't. Plus in our industry with like lending, financing, whatever, like there's huge players that are spending a ton of money, especially in the mortgage side. Like you can't compete in terms of ads anyways. So I just naturally needed to figure out a way to make sure that I could generate business that wasn't with traditional marketing and advertising. And for me, that was always just relationship based. So I, from a young age, just from a past life with other businesses, really learned like people skills, like emotional intelligence, like all that kind of stuff, the value of like adding value first to somebody else, and then value will come back to you versus always just trying to ask people for something or get something from someone. So I learned that mentality in my 20s. And then, so by the time I launched Prosper in like when I turned 30, I already had a really good foundation of like how to conduct business in a way that adds value to other people first, knowing that value is just going to come back to me. And whenever I operated that way, people were attracted to it. So it was really easy to build relationships with people. And if, as long as you're good at what you do and you have a high quality service, then they stick with you and then they refer other people. And like, then it just snowballs. So, that first year, because our service was just pretty highly in demand, and in like the Western PA area, like nobody was really doing what we did like in Pittsburgh. So long story short is that like we grew fast, but then because we did well with the initial clients, it just kind of took off from there. So that was a big component of it, is like referrals and stuff.
I love that. I see the value in networking and relationship building. If you can give us a 30 to 60 second masterclass of what are the things you should do or the key things someone needs to keep in mind if they jump in a room and their goal is to build relationships for the reasoning of propelling their business, what would you say if someone's like, you have 30 to 60 seconds to just tell someone these are the key things you need to know and need to do to be successful at building relationships for your business?
Yeah, sure. So going back to a couple of points that Corey made is like, don't lie, don't be dishonest, don't over promote, don't like be a facade, don't like over like you just embellish yourself or your business or any of that stuff. You don't want to over promote, but then you also don't want to, bash yourself, or like there's a balance between like confidence and like radical ego and all those things, or
Absolutely.
just somebody that has no confidence whatsoever, because nobody's going to want to do business with you either.
Right.
So those little simple things of like, don't do some of those things, but then what you should do is come in with like a relaxed confidence. Again, nobody wants to be sold. So even if you have the right intentions, but you're just over the top with, hey, let me tell you about what I do. And like people just aren't attracted to it. So like I've found that like having a relaxed confidence, being good at what you do, being an expert, like being like a specialist, it helps so that you feel confident in whatever it is that you're doing. Like take the time to master your niche. Like I think that's a key component that a lot of young guys, like they don't want to take the time to slow down, to speed up and like actually become a master at something, or be humble or find a mentor or any of these kinds of things, right? They just want to jump in and it's like, how do I make 6 figures super fast?
Yeah.
Everybody's looking for a get rich quick scheme. So anyway, so all that's to say is that I think that the last point really would just be like value first, like just try to learn them, ask questions of them, to like get to know them better, and then just see if there's a way that you could try to add value to them. And if you can't find anything, then compliment them, right? Because that's still a value that you're adding to them. If there isn't something you can physically do for them, then at least just give them a compliment, and get to know them and remember what they told you, which is a key. Most people ask questions, but then they're not paying attention to like what the answers are. You don't retain that info. So then when you talk to that person again next time, you're asking the same questions.
This guy didn't even listen to me.
Yeah, they're waiting to respond.
And that's instant zero credibility.
Yeah.
So like it's just
Powerful.
all these little things make a big difference.
And consistency, right? Because I feel like ever since you moved to Tampa, I've seen you everywhere.
Yeah.
There's
you're
something you said, one last thing, your second point, you said, be an expert at something. I've been a big fan of Greg Lavecchia's content, CEO of Bloom. He said something that caught my eye and I felt like I made this mistake. He said, showing up to networking events or socializing with high level people is absolutely useless if you are not good at anything. He said, might as well not show up, get in your cubicle, get on your desk, and become really freaking good at something. Do you agree with that?
I do overall, yes.
Yeah.
Because directly, there is nothing that you can do for those people, and there's really nothing that they can do for you except unless you're looking for a mentor. Because again, going back to the expert thing, you do have to be an expert before you can add value to anybody significantly and do business with them. But if I was a 21-year-old, I would absolutely go to a networking event and try to find a mentor, like, that, you know what I mean? That could actually.
So that's the exception.
That would pretty much be the only exception. But yeah, so overall, like I said, I agree. But that would be the only caveat that I would carve out for the most part, is just that, like, there is value in two things, actually. One, finding a mentor, and two, like, just putting yourself out there to develop the confidence and people skills to interact with somebody.
Love that.
Because if you just sit inside of your little cubby hole, like in your dorm or something like that, you're not like going up to somebody that's radically successful, somebody that even stretches you right now, like a billionaire, and talking to them, just you having that conversation, even if there's nothing you can do for each other, he did something for you, which was stretch you out of your comfort zone. And probably give you, more confidence. So like, those are some exceptions.
Dude,
I would
that's
say.
so true. I never even thought of that. If there's a billionaire in front of me, I try to share. If I'm being honest, I'm still going to be nervous. I'm like, hey, I want to make sure I'm on this guy's good side. And then now I'm like overthinking. But, not saying like for the most part, I've met multimillionaires, but at one point I felt that way. Now I could shake their hand,
of course,
and just have a normal conversation.
I would totally agree. It's an and thing. It's like, I think the biggest thing that young guys don't understand is like, I would say it's like, you need to go out and get exposure, and exposure therapy with social skills. Like, dude, when I got started when I was 19, like, I would like buy a suit on Friday. I would go to a networking event. I had no idea what I was doing. I would just go around the room, just kind of like asking what people needed, what they were working on. And then I'd go return it on Monday, And I think and meanwhile, but at night though, any question I had and anything I didn't understand, I was on YouTube for a couple hours. And I also listened to like this podcast called Art of Charm, which basically was like social skills. So, like put your shoulders back before you walk into a room, and like different things of like being curious with people, and like law of reciprocity, and like social skills, and things, asking certain kinds of questions that get people talking and revealing more about themselves. So I think it's definitely an and. If you just lock yourself in a room, maybe if you are just like a high-end a coder, like you don't need a whole lot of social skills, right? But eventually you got to sell yourself. Eventually you have to go present yourself. You can have the greatest thing in the world, but if no one knows about it and you can't convey it, then it doesn't work.
So here's my takeaway from what both of you said, because I completely agree. If you are in a season of your life where you're building a business, trying to become really good at something, but you're not at that level yet where you could call yourself an expert, I would say, I'm throwing out random numbers, 90% of the time you're working on your craft, and 10% sprinkle in a little bit of socializing and networking so people start to get to know you. And then maybe that scale of percentages changes as you grow your business.
I totally agree. Dude, you know how I got the partnership I have right now with my partner?
How?
I was, I had been in real estate already for about 8 or 9 years by the time before I met him. And I bounced around investment clubs, did everything. I knew everything that was like coming out of the ground. Not like building it, but I knew how everything with the fix and flip or foreclosure, how the debt worked and foreclosure process, short sales and all that. But I met his best friend, Tom. That's how I met him. And I brought a buyer for a duplex development lot in Orange County, and I didn't know anything about dirt. I didn't know what entitlement was. I didn't know what zoning was really. All I knew was this is the cost of windows, and here's how to pro forma fix and flip. But every night I didn't know something, I went home and I studied for hours on what an entitlement was. And I went down these rabbit holes. And then when I came back to the next conversation, then I could be more with him in the conversation. He didn't have to start from zero. And I think over time, if you can show people that you're giving that effort and you're asking questions and you're showing that you're doing your homework, that is what is attractive to mentors. And that's the biggest gap I see with young guys is they say, hey, I'd love to get some of your time on a coffee, but then the guy gives them something, or they say, hey, you should read this book. Hey, you should go talk to this person. You should do this thing. One, they don't do it. And they don't come back and say, this is what I learned. It's showing that you steeped in it, right? Because that's what those guys want to see. And over time, eventually, that's what I was like, hey, what does it look like to partner with you? And I bought a bunch of courses to just catch up, because mentors don't want to start from zero.
Absolutely.
They don't want to feel like they're constantly starting from zero. They want to know that you are pushing the bounds, also staying humble, not afraid to ask questions.
And they love to see you win.
And they love to see you win, dude.
I want to ask you, Brandon. Obviously, I see you as a mentor. I feel like whenever I see you, I ask you some deep question that you give me insight, and I really appreciate it. And the things you've told me, I've told to people that I mentor. But obviously, it's an unstructured thing. Do you have anyone you're mentoring or an apprentice you're taking on to kind of like take them to that next level, but very intentional, not like what we have, but intentional?
Currently, I don't as much anymore. I used to a lot. So like all throughout my 20s when I was building network marketing, that was really what the whole business model was about, is like coaching and mentoring people and duplicating and so on and so forth. So I was really into like coaching and mentorship and like really raising up like the next round of folks behind me and so on and so forth, and making a difference in that way. And then whenever I transitioned to just, traditional business, lending, financing, et cetera, I did that with all the guys on my team, that I built a team and started coaching and mentoring. And now I still do that. So like there's 2 young guys on my team that are 20 years old. They're just getting into the industry, and I am, coaching and mentoring them. But from like a pure, like very deep, like apprentice perspective, I don't have anybody currently, but I want that. Like, that's something that I find fulfillment in and I love. I think you probably already picked up on that because you asked me questions, but you can tell like I genuinely love like just trying to help in any way that I can. It's not that I know everything by any means. It's just that I do have some perspectives that often help people, which I just find a lot of like joy in providing. So I love mentoring folks any opportunity I can, but I don't have currently anybody that I'm like super deeply involved with.
You said you want to mentor. What are you looking for in someone? Are you like, what do you want someone to do? Let's say there's a young person or a young man trying to join Crown and Ash and is listening to this podcast and was like, well, I want Brandon to mentor me. What do you want that person, that ideal avatar, to do to get your attention and to get, I don't know, 2-3 hours a week with you of some type of mentorship? What do you look for in a person?
Yeah. So, well, I would say even from the reverse aspect, the first thing that they should look for in a mentor are, in my opinion, two main things. One is somebody that has fruit on the tree. Like somebody who is where you want to be in life, or has aspects of what you want to in life, that like, that's the things that you're going to ask them about. Like if they don't have a good marriage, then probably don't want to ask them about marriage. But if like they have a certain aspect, like whether it's business or it's relationally or whatever it is, if they have fruit in that area, then like you should pursue that person in that area specifically, and not the areas that they don't have fruit on the tree. Right. So people mix that up. So that's one thing. It's like fruit on the tree, like be a fruit inspector. So that's the first thing you want to look for. And the second thing, in my opinion, that I don't think a lot of people talk about, is having that person having a financially invested interest in you. Because they're going to take so much more seriousness to mentor if they have a financially invested interest in you to some capacity, right? Because again, like you could like have somebody who does have fruit on the tree, but they don't have the right heart, or they don't give a lick about you, or whatever the case may be, and they could end up giving you bad advice. And if they don't think through the advice, because maybe they didn't take the time to understand your perspective or exactly where you're at, they could give something generic that ends up hurting you. And they don't give a rip because it doesn't hurt them, right? So like ideally you do actually want somebody that is like in some form or capacity relatively like financially tied to you. Like Corey's mentor is financially tied to him, right? So it's like, it's some of those things that I think a lot of people miss too. So now to answer your question directly, if I were to mentor somebody like very intimately, I would want to make sure that we have some type of financial interest in each other, so that if I'm making sure that I take the time to give him extremely sound advice, because if I give him bad advice, it hurts me.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? So like it's a big difference that I've just noticed over the years of people that like you just go after the person that has success in the area you want, but they miss that second thing and they end up still.
Dude, that fumbling. Is so powerful. I don't think I've ever heard anyone talk. We need to clip that for sure.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, that's because There's an app called Minect, which I'm a fan of. Have you guys heard of it?
No.
Patrick Bet-David made it. You can download the app. And there's experts there like Patrick Bet-David. Tomo's part of it, actually, my friend. I'm an expert on there, but no one ever booked me. But essentially, you pay somebody. For example, I think for Patrick Bet-David for a 15-minute call, it's like $10,000. But they have no financial tie with you. Do you think that's
Not if
worth
it's
it?
transactional like that, yeah.
Do you think those transactional mentorship calls are worth it? Because I know people that I paid my mentor 25 grand to get dinner with him. Are those worth it?
In my opinion, no, because it's very transactional based. They get their fee up front either way. So it's the same outcome. Ultimately, they're not financially tied to you, meaning that they get paid up front regardless of the advice they give you. And if it's bad advice, it's not tied to them, right? So there's
no adjustments.
Exactly. So when I say like a financially invested interest, that's very different than them being incentivized financially. Does that make sense?
It makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. And also there's only so much they can give you on one call. So I think it's like, it might be, sometimes you can learn so much just by being in somebody else's presence. You're like, oh, that's what that level feels like. And then for the most part, I agree with you. Like you have to like steep in with a mentor. Like I'm entrenched with my business partner and mentor. Like I spend every day with him. And because of that, like there's a force multiplier on how much I'm learning every week. It's absolutely insane. If I had one phone call with him, he can only really give generalist advice, right? So if you only get one call, you're going to get general advice, but the specificity of actually being able to execute on whatever you're trying to get mentored on, it takes time, and it takes much longer than one phone call to make a meaningful gain in whatever that thing is. That's my take on it.
And it's totally true, which is why I still go back to the second point, which is if they're not financially tied to you, they typically won't go that deep. Like that's usually what it comes down
100%.
to, is that because he's 100% right, that you're only going to get like significant substance when there's depth of relationship and time and hundreds of questions and so on and so forth. And statistically speaking, it's possible that you could find somebody that isn't financially tied to you, but it's going to be a rarity that somebody is going to give that much of their time and effort and energy to someone they're not financially tied to.
I think the value in those $25,000 dinners might not be the mentorship anymore. It's probably the community you paid yourself into to be in the right room. Right?
Yeah, if it's beyond a call,
that's the only value. Well, not the only, but probably the biggest value to paying, hey, $25,000 to have dinner with you.
Yeah, but I'm not paying 25 grand so PBD I can take a Zoom screenshot and post on my Instagram.
Yeah.
And he could just tell me some generalist stuff. I mean, he's a badass.
But also you could take a selfie and be like, hey, I'm with PBD, we're having dinner.
Well, and again,
there's value in that.
And
yeah, I guess so.
I don't know how big.
PR.
I don't know how big.
It also depends on your goal and your strategy and what you're trying to accomplish too, because you could spend $10,000 on meeting Patrick Bet-David. And again, if it's just a one-time thing and that's it, but maybe in that like conversation, you can communicate your value and like your hunger, and maybe you have an opportunity that he might want to actually like, hey, let's have a follow-up conversation on this. Like maybe I could take 10% equity in your company. Maybe I could now, again, if he's a minority partner in your business because he sees value and so on and so forth, I think that $10,000 15-minute call was probably worth it, because now you actually have somebody, like it could get you a foot in the door, essentially, to point number 2.
Foot in the door. So that's what those transactional mentorship packages that you could buy is, just a foot in the door. It's not true mentorship is what you're saying.
Yeah.
No.
Yep. And again, I mean, maybe like if it's, you just have to look at the opportunity cost, the cost of doing business and so on and so forth. Maybe it is just transactional. You pay $5,000 for a 30-minute conversation, and maybe they do answer a few questions.
Maybe you need to have a very technical question.
Yeah,
like,
very technical.
And it is possible that like they could answer a few questions that helps you level up your business that you go off and do on your own, and it ends up making you more money than $5,000, and then that ROI is worth it, right? So it's not that but that's different than real mentorship, which is what the question was, right? So like that's like very simple advice.
It's more like
that could help
business
your business
consulting,
grow. Exactly.
More so, not necessarily
that is the
mentorship.
definition of what it is.
Yeah,
It's business consulting.
I feel like it should be surgical.
Yep.
You go in there, you're very prepared with your question, and you're trying to get like this poignant thing. Like here is like, I'm gonna like, I'm building out a parent company right now. If I want to go to PBD, I'd be like, I would come prepared with all the ways I want to lay out the company, all the subsidiary companies, be like, how would you roll this out? How do you think about the structure in this? How do you think about the leadership structure in it? And then he can be like a surgeon and be like, I would hire a COO first. Yeah. I would don't go this route first, get a COO first. And those kind of things.
Because you get to leverage their experience, their mistakes, and their successes.
Yeah.
And skip steps for you. Now
those
that
are big.
is worth 20 grand.
That's where I can see it. So it's like you got, but that's like
we're talking about prepared.
That's what. But you got something going on. Right.
Yeah,
you're not just coming in there and be like 25 grand and be like, tell me what to do in my life.
Be like, I sold my car, now I have 25 grand. Hey, how can I make more money? No, that's not.
And that's true. And all that's super valid. And that's the difference between like consulting and advice versus mentorship, right? Because like
Agreed.
that wouldn't be mentorship, that's consulting and advice, which is super valuable and you should do, at some point probably. Like you need to consult an expert in a particular craft, like hire Bain or McKinsey or whoever to help you design your infrastructure or the Big Four or whatever the case may be. Like if you need to set up your legacy infrastructure with your revocable living trust and then your S Corp for your active income and your anonymity LLC for your passive income and so on and so forth. Like if you need to get structures in place, you hire experts that can consult or help you build those things, but that's different than mentorship.
Absolutely.
And I want to get you guys' take on this as well. Please. So yesterday I had coffee with a billionaire, and something became like another
billionaire with a B. Wow, good for you.
That's awesome.
It's Sarasota's got some heavy hitters, but what was very clear to me is that after having coffee with this billionaire, I've met him a few times beforehand, but the relationship that you're able to create in that moment is created long before you get to that coffee date. And the way I view like relationships and making relationships at that level is that way beforehand, you deeply have done the work on yourself. You know yourself, you know your God, and you're very competent at something. And they can tell that you are well-rounded, right? So like 100%. After that meeting, he was like, I think it's really great. Like who you got to work with, you must be very special. It's like something like that, And I was like, oh, thank you. And because I told him about my partner, but we had a 2-hour meeting. The first hour and a half of it was talking about holistic health and taking on the conventional medical system.
Love it. He's
a billionaire. He only does impact investing. There's no exchange I could give him. Right. I have a puny real estate deal. Like I'm raising $3.5 million. It's not a big deal to him, but he wants to only do impact investing in the health. He bought an acupuncture school in Sarasota. So we jammed about that for an hour and a half. I jammed about how I was in the conventional medical system in the military and all the things I had to encounter with that. And like how I would love biohacking. And we were talking about how we would how we want to change agricultural farming. And the last 30 minutes was talking about investments. And then it opened the door and it's basically like, we're going to have lunch again. Really enjoyed this time. And you give something to someone like that they get to enjoy and pour into. And now he's also given me an invite into something that I might be able to share with you guys, So, but I just really always want to hound, like I want this big part of my brand is that relationships are made far before you have the coffee date. And the work you do in quiet is what people get to see in public. And the books you read, how many times you go to church, what you pray on, what you steep in, what you journal, all that stuff. So
I completely agree. Well said. And remind me later for that billionaire, that's something we can talk about too, because I get opportunities for impact investing and I usually just don't have places to do with it. So
yeah, that's what they want, dude.
So yeah, seriously, we'll talk about that later. But I completely agree with all of your points of like, you need to make sure that you're doing the work on you. And part of that work is like what we talked about in terms of like being an expert in something, having a niche, so on and so forth. But it's much more significant than that. Like it's character trait based, it's work ethic based, it's faith based, or, there's so many different components to you as a person and what you bring to the table. And it's not just, I'm really good at insurance, or I'm really good at real estate, or I'm really good at lending, or whatever the case may be. People like that do business with people like them, and people like them typically have values. They have like philosophies of how they operate life. They have like certain things that they care about that you can try to find where there's alignment. And you don't have to be the exact same person, but from a framework and values and like work ethic perspective, if you don't align, but even though you have a cool niche, it's still going to be a no.
I literally just had a conversation an hour before this podcast, before I called you. A guy called me, one of the Crown and Nash members, his friend wanted to get into insurance, jumped on a call with me, and I said the same exact thing. He lives in Dallas. So I was like, dude, honestly, if you're not going to relocate to Tampa, I recommend you find a team over there, because aligning with the right person is going to be the key to your success. Because at the end of the day, I do believe I'm one of the best insurance agents there is when it comes to health and life. I really do have that genuine belief, but I'm not the only one. There's a lot of good ones out there. So I'm like, what's going to differentiate Corey working with me compared to someone else? Well, the product is going to be all the same if we have the same amount of knowledge. It's just, how do we align, you know?
Yeah, definitely. I think it's like treating it as an equal playing field. You know, obviously delivery of service. We all know that each of our industries you need to be a specialist. You do not want to be a generalist in either of these things.
Yep.
But as we go out and network, and like when I met you, I was like, I'm trying to, because we share so many values, I am personally in the background engineering ways for us to work together. Because of that. Because it feels good to work together. We share these values. It's fun. We go out, we go to Sapphire, we do the thing, you know, and it's because there's an enjoyability to it. And the same thing, I think, with that coffee with the billionaire is like, we did not stop for 2 hours, just firing off. There was never a beat got skipped. And it's because we shared all these different like qualities. And that's curated over a long period of time. And it again goes back to like the young guys, like they need to not be afraid of steeping in something and going through the deep work of, you know, whether it's the Bible or whatever it is, just like steeping yourself and basing your morals and ethics based on something. Like go to what has fruit. Okay, like people that are in the church all the time and read the Bible, they typically have fruit in their life. They have a moral code, and from there, something bears fruit. So you take note of that. If someone else they're getting fruit from something else, wonderful. I'd love to study it. But follow that first, and then based on, find your internal moral compass, like what are your values? And I think a lot of people do not sit down and do that.
Absolutely.
I completely agree. Yeah, we live in this microwave society where people just want things instantly, and you know, if you grow up
I'm guilty of it.
Yeah, I mean, pretty much everybody nowadays is growing up on social media. I think I was probably the last generation that didn't. Like, at 17 years old, I got my first flip phone, and I got Facebook at 21, and you know, like my first iPhone at 21. So like I was pretty much about to graduate college when I even got like social media and smartphones and all that kind of stuff. So I was like literally the last person to like not grow up on that stuff. And I just see in these generations now of folks that are growing up on that stuff, it's just that people don't understand what real success looks like or how to get there. I think that's like the biggest thing, is that they see the people that, you know, become instant millionaires from crypto, or they see so much instant success all over social media. So then that's what they're chasing. They're always chasing, what's the one thing that I can make $100,000 with next week? What's the one thing I can get rich quick with? Like, so they're so overly focused on like what's like, it's very common. And most people don't take the time to realize, how is true success built? Like, what does that look like? And how do I study what that is and how to get there? People just aren't doing that.
It's hard to it's hard to fight that temptation though, because for example, one of our friends, also in Crown and Nash, Kevin, we were hanging out. This was actually before you got to the Camden that one night. He was like, "Yeah, dude, I traded penny stocks and I put in $20,000." And then I was like, "Oh, where are you at right now?" He's like, "Oh, it's a little under $1 million." And I was like, "Bro, the next time you buy something, tell me I'm buying it." He literally texted me like earlier last week. He was like, "Bro, I'm putting in like $2,000 here. You should do it too." But he was like, "Remember, high risk. If you lose money, it's not on me." And I'm like, "Bro, cool." So I put in 2,000. So far we're down, but we're gonna make it.
Well, yeah. And there's investing truths.
So I want to pivot a little bit. I want to have the opportunity to ask something to Brandon, because I don't think we ever, all three of us and our circle, doesn't really talk about what we're gonna do. We just do it. I asked Brandon my thought process, and I made a post about it. You don't need a clear vision to be successful. I'm probably on track to touch my first half mil, 600K this year. And it's my best year ever. I'm not a millionaire like most people think for some reason. But it's going to be my best year ever. And I told Brandon, I never had a clear vision. I just kept working hard every single day, and somehow God blessed me because I never wanted to be where I am at today, right? Not that I never wanted it. I never set a goal to be where I'm at today, especially at the age of 28, right? So I wanted, and Brandon told me his thought process, but Brandon, do you have a clear vision for your next year, 2 years, or are you just kind of working really hard, building relationships, seeing where it goes like me, or are you one of those people with a clear vision? Because you did tell me you think a clear vision is important. You disagreed with my thought, right?
Yeah, and I'm trying to remember exactly like what I even told you, but I do remember a couple of things. One is that I remember telling you, you don't necessarily need to have this like
Right, you did say that.
5-year, 10-year vision, like this big thing of like, here's what I'm going to accomplish for the rest of my life. And like, that's what most people think of vision is like, it's something huge and significant and far off. And you have to have that. Otherwise you can't operate today. And like, that's just not true. Like as long as you're hungry, ambitious, driven, and you have built an expertise or you're building an expertise or whatever the case may be, you can just have a vision. And this is where you do have a vision. It's just short term. Like your vision is I'm going to crush this week or I'm going to crush today. And like, you know what I mean? Like, cause you do have vision short term of like, even for your team and stuff like that.
I just want them to make
called
6 figures.
They're just called goals. You know what I mean? But that's what a goal is something that hasn't happened yet that's in the future, which is vision, right? So it's like, it all comes down to like the timeline on vision, that you don't have to necessarily have this huge, really far out like goal or vision. But there's also other aspects to vision besides just what am I trying to accomplish? It could be also like, who do I want to be? What do I want to have in the future? Like, I think we've talked about like you want to have a wife and kids and so on and so forth. Like that's vision, right? So it's just like, it just depends on like what you're like, how you want to classify it. And I think a lot of people classify like, do you have a vision of something that's radically large and significant and far off? And maybe you don't have all those things figured out. And maybe you shouldn't, because you never know what you're going to come into. You know what I mean? Like you never know what God's going to bless you with. You don't know what his plan is per se compared to what your plan is. And if you get overly invested in what your plan is going to be, you don't leave any opportunity for something better to come along the way. So anyway, so like there's I can go into a lot of different random thoughts about vision, but I think that's what
How deep is your vision?
To answer your question, yes, I absolutely have a vision. I'll call it a framework and a blueprint for like where I would like to be 1 year, 3 years, 5 years, like 10 years from now. I don't even necessarily have them all like written down and defined. I used to do that a lot of like writing down things, defining what I want, so on and so forth. But today, I do have a vision for where I want my family to be in the next couple of years. I do have a vision for where I want my companies and my different investments to be like overall. But yeah, so I do have vision, but I wouldn't say that it's like radically defined of like, it's going to be this dollar amount in this way and so on and so forth. I just have an overall of like, here's where I would like to be and where I would like to go.
Do you want to share a little bit of that?
Sure.
Of what that is? I'm just curious.
Yeah. So, I mean,
if it's something that's okay to be on camera, I don't know.
Yeah, no. I mean, I can share.
I just don't want to put you in a weird spot.
No, it's okay. The things that I would say that I'm comfortable with sharing, which is pretty much everything, is just that I would like to have like healthy, happy, like kids, like that are, you know, again, like happy, healthy. They're in a good spot in life. Like they're growing, they're learning, like they're becoming like stewards of society and so on and so forth. Like I want to raise good kids. Like that's like a really big, important thing that I want to make sure that happens. Most people that become successful, I wouldn't say most, but a lot of folks that become successful, they don't put the right things into their kids. They're too worried about leaving things for their kids versus leaving things in their kids. So that's one big thing that like I want to make sure that I'm very intentional about, is like putting things in my kids, not just leaving things for my kids, so that they do become like amazing stewards of society. So that's a big vision that I have out there, that like my kids are going to be like world changers, right? Like they're going to do something very significant with their lives and impact people. And maybe that's going to be in significant businesses, or maybe it's going to be in ministry. I don't know what it's going to be, but like, I'm going to make sure that they are in a place where they're like fully enabling like God's purpose for their life. Right. So like, that's a vision I have, and I could go into just as long of a vision on the business side, but like, I like legitimately know and see that I'm going to be not just a millionaire, like on paper, depends how you define millionaire, net worth, all that stuff. But like, even just based on the definition of net worth, I can consider myself a millionaire. I have enough equity, blah, blah, blah. But I see, 100 million plus in like net worth equity over the next couple of years. And I see that just because of things that like God is blessing me with and things that are being aligned.
You've built evidence for yourself that it's a very achievable reality.
It is,
dude.
100%.
Honestly, in this podcast, that part you just spoke about with like values and attributes to your children, not just leaving them stuff, that was what made this conversation extremely worth it for me. Because being in an Asian household, and probably any other immigrant household, their parents just work really, really hard because they suffered so much because of financial situations. They don't want their kids to suffer with financial situations. And then next thing you know, you're this person of value and grit, but then your children are spoiled brats because you left them so much money, so much assets, but you never taught them what it took to be a man like you.
Oh, you see it in Orange County,
like you.
like crazy. Like
Really?
there's a big problem. Like in Orange County, I lived there for about 2 years when I was in the military, and it's just kids are like getting into coke and heroin and suicidal. Like they have like a really high suicide rate. And you see they just get spoiled. The parents are always gone. They're always absent, and then they're spoiled brats.
Wow.
And I think like when I think about the things that I'm starting to get access to, and I'm sure you as well, we have these conversations, is like when I see if I see a certain friend that hasn't accumulated the kind of character to yield that, I don't want to actually, it's like a father not wanting to spoil a child. Like I don't actually want to give that to him because I think it would rob them. Like I feel so blessed that I did not grow up with money for much of my childhood. I had a little glimpse of it, but I didn't get to enjoy it because my dad was always gone. I didn't end up being a spoiled brat, I guess. Maybe not. But, I grew up poor for the most part, in a tiny, 1,000 square foot house with 5 or 6 people living there at any given time. And we had a room in a garage, and I'm very grateful for that. Because now I have so much appreciation for it. And for what I have, I do my best to steward, I feel like I steward it well because of that. And back to your point about having a visioner, I think one of my favorite sayings actually came from my best friend Dakota is strong convictions loosely held. So if you get too rigid on I'm going to do this thing, it's going to be this dollar amount, then, we make plans and God laughs. And for one, and then secondarily, you can be so rigid on this plan, you're not listening to, your path just slightly veering like this. At 19, I was like, I'm going in the military. I was like, I'm going to be a physical therapist. And that quickly went out the window when I realized I hate school and I don't want that lifestyle and I want to be an entrepreneur. Because I started reading Think, Grow Rich, Plant Some Seeds when I was 14, thanks to MLMs. And so then it kind of unfolded, and then I was like, oh, okay. Then my mom was going through foreclosure, and then I got into real estate. Okay, and then the entrepreneurial funnel was I'm just trying to figure out what the hell to do with my life. And then it was real estate. And then over time, naturally, I was I want all these things in real estate and all these stats, and just kind of kept unfolding. And now I run a commercial investment firm, So it's I think it kind of strong conviction in real estate, loosely held on what it shows up as. And I really like that methodology of life.
I love that.
Yep. Yeah. No, I completely agree. And it's true. I wish we knew the statistics, but it probably doesn't matter because almost all statistics are made up anyways. But it's a very high percentage of successful parents, or let's just say wealthy parents or parents that do well income wise. They don't necessarily have, it's a huge stereotype that they just end up not typically having good kids. They're spoiled, they're entitled, they go down bad paths, they make bad decisions, so on and so forth. And it's just funny to start to break down Like, well, why is that? And how do we change it? And, or just study the people, like, just like how you've studied like Think and Grow Rich and Napoleon Hill and all these different guys that like were successful, obviously, or they studied successful guys. That's one thing, but then why wouldn't you do it in the same aspect for somebody that's successful with duplicating that mindset into their kids?
Yeah.
That's one of the things that I've seen is it's rare to find, but you see there are couples out there that they're radically successful financially, but then they also have unbelievable kids. They're a rarity and they're worth studying. And I think that is probably the least studied and researched component is most people are studying like rich people and learning how to be rich, and that's fine. But most people that then become rich don't continue to go down and try to find somebody that has actually became rich and then duplicated that through the next generation.
Duplicating it through teachings, but also proper estate planning. Like you've seen this with the Vanderbilts.
Yeah, I was going to say Vanderbilt.
Completely gone. And then the Rockefellers still active and kicking to this day. It's actually insane. This conversation reminds me of a meme because I love cars. I love BMWs, right? And this young kid at like 18, like he posted a video of his BMW M3 competition, beautiful car. I don't even have a car like that at 18 years old. And he was getting so many hate comments on Instagram saying, oh, daddy's money. And then he just responded back and it went viral. He was like, why are you bullying me for my dad actually working hard so he could buy me this? You should be mad at your dad for not being able to get you something like this. And it was like, it's so true. Why are you hating on someone? He was like, you don't know if the kid is ungrateful or grateful. Why are you hating on him?
Yeah.
Because you're jealous his dad got him a BMW M3 at 18 years old. Yeah, right.
Yeah, maybe his dad's been making him mow the lawn since he was 10.
Yeah, you don't know that
anything until he does his work,
so
and he gets rewarded.
This conversation reminds me of that. You know, now if he's flaunting it, like, and doing bad things with it, then yeah, maybe bully him. I think bullying should be accepted. But you know, for someone just showing off, like excited with their car, driving it, don't hate on people. You know, you don't know that.
Yep.
Yeah, you don't know their heart set of what it is.
Yeah.
And we live in an interesting social. I'd like to touch on this too, because we're all building our personal brands, right? And I deeply seek to not, I don't want to be like every photo, Lambo. Not that I could buy one right now, but like, it's like
probably
that
could.
Maybe. It's coming up. But it's I just don't want to. But
I got a private money lender here.
Yeah, yeah. Give me a good rate. So, creating these personal brands, and it's kind of like what it shows up in the modern day era. Like, just like Crown and Ash, like the culture is humility, not selling, and honor-based. And, also we have some fun, but like, I want my life to be so fruitful. People have to ask where I got it from. But God, you post like 3 times, you get all these Miami influencers. Let me blow up your Instagram. They have 1 million followers, but all the comments are like king shit, bro. And they're just like absolute trash. Like it's fake accounts. And every photo is like them in front of a Lambo, them with their watch, with the steering wheel. It's like, so distasteful, And so how do you guys view creating a personal brand and creating it in a way where it is like who you actually are, not falling into algorithmic bullshit, and like that is trying to show people not that you have it, but where you got it from, like the character values, because that's what I deeply seek to do.
Yeah.
And I know that there's a game in social media, and I really just don't care about virality more than maintaining that.
Yeah, well, I mean, the first thing that you kind of already answered a portion of your question was it's authenticity, right? That like that's the first component of building a personal brand that actually works and is real and is good. Is just you just being your authentic self and not trying to be something you're not. I think the term now that kids use is LARPing. I don't know if you've heard of that concept, but
I know LARPing, but not in that context.
Yeah,
that's live action role play.
Yeah,
you're doing a live action role play of who you're not.
Oh, okay, that's good.
Yeah,
that's a funny relation. Did they come up with the funniest name?
That's what they call it now. That like if you don't own a Lambo, but you rent one and you take pictures and you post on social media, like look at my Lambo. Like I guess that's
LARPing.
That's LARPing now.
Oh, I love that.
So,
Brandon knows ball.
Yeah. But anyway, so all that's to say is like just not trying to over promote yourself or any of those kinds of things. Just be your authentic self, I think is a good foundational place to start from. That's like step 1. And then step 2 is just being intentional about who you are and what you're trying to put out to the world. Like because everybody's brand's different. Everybody's trying to accomplish different things. So like, it's hard to say like, this is what your personal brand should be or anything like that. But like, if you look at it from a framework perspective, like I personally like to make sure that people know, that I care about like God, family, and business. And I try to post them relatively like in that order, that like I care a lot about my family. So I post my family, and then I do care about business. So I post some stuff about business, but I'm not over promoting. I'm not doing any of those types of things. I'm just trying to be me and put out an image in the world that like, I also could look back and like not hate or like hide from. Like I don't have a singular selfie like with my G-Wagon, you know what I mean? Like I just don't like post that kind of stuff. Maybe every once in a while I'll do something that is related to it that like people can see like, hey, this guy's probably doing pretty well. I'll try to subtly just place like where my life is, not like, again, from an authentic perspective, but not portray anything that I'm
But
not.
I love it because like when you posted about getting the new G-Wagon, you're like, this is my wife's dream car. I got it for her. And
100%.
this is like, it was like kind of achievement and
bucket list
gratitude,
thing.
right? So like, I think that's like the tastefulness, and like, you know, we're all going to fall short of that, I guess. And it's all perception. Like we have different heart and mindset and what we do with our, you know, and then it comes into what we do with our hands. Right. And I think that, it's hard. It's easy to misjudge in the modern day era as well. But I completely agree with you. Like my Instagram for a long time has basically just been philosophy, personal stories. And like, then all of a sudden I post like, we broke ground on 10-acre office park. People are like, what the hell, you do projects like that? And I was like, all right, maybe I should treat my Instagram like a little bit more like a business. You know, cause a lot of people want to introduce me and they first land on my Instagram, and it's like, you know, there has to be something about business. So I'm going to step in like an educational era where it's like 80% value, 20% ask, and inviting people into that. And I really like those methodologies. It's like ruthless value first.
I like that.
Yeah.
I think that makes a ton of sense. And I guess the one thing that I'll add just to piggyback on that you gave me the idea of is it just depends on what you're trying to accomplish. And in my personal opinion, I think now today, like Instagram, for the example, is what a lot of people go to for like credibility. Like instead of like, I've just seen that even with moving down here to Florida, like instead of me exchanging business cards or even my cell phone with somebody, people are like, let's just exchange Instagrams, meaning that, and it's not LinkedIn, Instagram. So it is the instant identifier of who you are to another person. And it, even in a business context, right? So, which is why I do think that this personal brand is important, and even like Instagram is important, because that is where people are trying to gather information about who you are and what you're about. So for me personally, I think it does make sense to have a blend of like family, business, values, like all that kind of stuff, so that you can see it. But here's really what my goal is just to portray is just credibility, just like, you know, because that's, I think, what ultimately we need to be portraying in our personal brands is authenticity, but credibility.
Yeah, so, like, can I trust this guy?
Yeah.
You know, it's like, oh, he's a family man, he's a man of God. Okay, these are different attributes that I relate to that, you know? And that's, people really want to know that you can trust. And it's kind of it's both cool what's happening in like the branding space is people really want to know who you are, and then it's a byproduct of what you do. Like I'm so far beyond a real estate guy. You're so far beyond a insurance guy. Same thing with you in life insurance. These are just our vehicles that our values are applied to.
Yep.
Like I love what I do because I get to meet incredible people. Yep. And I get to invite them in to invest me or not invest me, and I get to give them value. I have a bunch of tools I can give them, and in that, it's like just like that coffee with the billionaire. It's like 90% personal talk and 10% business, and they're figuring out, do I like you? Can I trust you? And do you know what you're doing?
Yep.
And I'm like, okay, great. And it collapses the timeline tremendously.
100%.
You mind if I give you insight on your original question?
Yeah.
Yeah. So to build a personal brand, I feel like I have the key to it. I'll share it with you because I had an epiphany. This was about a year ago, maybe a year and a half, and I could be better at executing it. But what I realized is I audited myself. Who are the people I look up to on Instagram? Even people that I maybe not ever met before, but why do I gravitate towards them? It was never the Miami course sellers, It's
No
not,
balcony boys.
It's not the Globe Life, AIG, like all these insurance agents flexing this. I always thought it was so cringy what they're doing, you know? So I was like, okay, well, discard those people. Let me look at the people I look up to. Brandon's Instagram, I love. Joe Basso, the CEO of the brokerage I work for, I love his Instagram. Greg Lavecchia, dude is crazy rich. And his Instagram, I love. I'm like, why am I gravitating towards that?
He's my favorite I'm following right now.
Yeah, me
shout
too.
out to Greg. You're killing
He's
it.
killing the personal branding game. And so I looked at it. It's exactly what Brandon said. Joe Basso, who I know for a fact makes a tremendous amount of money. You look at his Instagram, it's his wife, it's his son, it's his church. And I remember one time we went out to lunch to Union U American and I carpooled with him. Dude, I didn't even know. He picked me up in a Brabus G-Wagon. And I was like, dude, do you own this or did you rent it? He was like, oh, no, I own it. He's never posted it before. He has a whole movie theater in his house. You've never seen it. Like, he doesn't flex any of it.
Yep.
But for some reason, I knew he had that credibility and I trusted him, you know? And I was like, here's the thing. I think creating a personal brand, it's not just being authentic on who you are. I think it's an opportunity to create who you want to be. So why I say that is like, hey, I want to be more like Brandon. I want to be more like Joe Basso. I want to be more like Greg Lavecchia. What are they doing? Oh, this is how they're posting. Oh, they're not. Oh, I can see Greg has this 8-figure home in Colorado, but he's not even like flexing it. He's just in there. That's why I know it. You know what I mean? I'm like, maybe I should do that too. I live in arguably, in my opinion, the most luxurious apartment complex in Tampa. And I never like show it off like that. Like, but if you see me in a video in there, it's like, oh, Kyle's got it. Like, and that's not being self-centered. It's just, that's the style I want to create my personality to be like. I think it's an opportunity to create your future self.
What I hear in that is class. I think there's like a tastefulness, and I think that those that understand it, and those that don't wonder. So there's a classy way of doing something. And one of my favorite guys I follow for like emotional intelligence, like he's a Silicon Valley like coach, just absolute legend, Joe Hudson. He says, "Do you want to have it, or do you want people to see that you have it?" And I was like, oh, that's a good question.
That's a great question.
Yeah. So it's like, yeah. So I think a lot of people want people to see that they have it. And then that is compensating for something else. And I think that I say with confidence, like because of all of our brands, I know you guys deeply, is that, you know, we want to show what it comes from, the character values. And I think that's what's so great about Greg's brand. Greg is always talking about what created that and discipline. He's always posting videos working out at 5:30 a.m.
Crazy.
And what creates. So when I think about that stuff is like showing the environment for success. Again, it goes back to like the too rigid of a vision. It's like always trying to create an environment in which success can exist. So we have good friends, you know, Crown and Ash. Everyone makes over 200 grand a year. All right, well, that's one multiplier. Then we vet them. It's like, are they humble? If they have $1 million, but they're showing, you know, they're just showing it every day on a Lambo, like probably not someone we want in the group because they have a certain kind of cocky attitude that we don't want that. But it keeps creating these different environments in which like a success can actually exist.
Absolutely. That quote you said with that content creator you talked about, one of our members, Sebastian Danucci, I don't know if you had the opportunity to meet him. He came super late. He had a really nice suit on.
He's great.
We had dinner at Charlie's Steakhouse once with Hagen, another member. And I see him as a mentor too. Like I look up to him. And he said one thing to me one thing to Hagen that I heard, but my life changed because of that. He said to Hagen, bro, stop, man. I don't care about winning. I just want to make money. And then when he said that, I was like, holy crap. I've been caring too much, wanting people to see me win. But at the end of the day, like, I don't care about winning. Like in the definition of winning has been being seen as a winner. He's like, dude, I just want to make money. So hence when that happened, because before I wanted to always be like, for example, my agency's producing multi-millions every single month. And then I wanted to take credit for it, but I have this team. I'm like, dude, a simple marketing agreement. I help you propel. I don't get the recognition for doing 2 million a month. Instead, I'm only doing 1 million, but I'm getting a cut out of your million. every single time. That's all. And when he said that, it blew my business up. Like, I think that's one of the biggest things I learned this year that allowed me to kind of like,
it's a different vantage
income.
point.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, I'm trying to be effective. So it's like, versus trying to share that you're doing 2 million a month, just a showboat, you're showing that your team is successful and it's due to these principles and you should come and be a part of it, or you should work with us.
Yeah.
In a way that's genuine. And I think that's the kind of differentiate. It's a flavor.
And I love it.
And it's a flavor, and it's like, it's a subconscious thing. I think that's translated when you meet somebody.
Yeah.
If they have these values and they built them in quiet, even if they say them, you still kind of either feel they got them or they don't got them. Yep. And I think that is where the work in quiet really comes in.
I like that.
Yeah.
I like it. Makes sense.
So in closing, if you had 60 seconds, because we talked a lot about mentors, mentees on the call, and what would you say to a young person that wants to be the demographic that wants to be an entrepreneur, and they're 19 years old, they graduated high school and they're going out into the world? What would you advise them in 60 to 2 minutes?
That's a good question. I would obviously say, as we've talked a lot about, is you probably want to find a mentor, but before you find a mentor, you need to figure out at least an idea of what do you want to do? What do you want to be? Like, you know what I mean? Like, think of what you're good at. Like, it's like they say that you want to find the intersection of like your passions, your skill sets.
Ikigai.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So like you start to frame up and really do some depth of thinking of like, what kind of outcomes do you want in your life? Not just what do you want to do, but who do you want to be? And like, what do you want to have? Like, what kind of outcomes do you want produced in your life? Because that can significantly alter what you end up focusing your career path on, right? It could be anything. And you can make a lot of money in doing pretty much anything, So anyways, long story short, start with trying to figure that out. And then if you can do some research, read some books, go to church, like just focus on some of those foundational things. But then if you can find your niche, find a person that is successful in that area, just like we talked about. What are you looking for in a mentor? Like, find somebody that has fruit on the tree, and then maybe at some point you can try to figure out how they can have a financially invested interest in you, sit under somebody, so on and so forth. But that would be the biggest thing that I would recommend for a young person that's trying to make it and wants to be successful is just be humble, learn, grow, and dig in,
Love it.
Thank you, Brandon. Appreciate you, bro.
Yeah, man.
No, sure. I think for me, I want to leave it off as that. The only thing I want to say to add on actually is when you're looking for something to do and to be good at, I think when somebody graduates high school or college and they're going out in the world, they think this is what I'm going to do for life. No, you want to be an insurance agent. You just focus on that. Maybe life will have you be an insurance agent for 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, and then more opportunities come. You're not committing your whole life to one thing. So just figure it out what you're going to do for this next season of your life. That's all I got to say.
I love that. Yeah, life is iteration. So I think that's when you talk to like old wise guys, they're like, what something starts off as never ends up as something else.
Yeah.
So yeah, what I would say is, before you start peddling, and I love the vigor of like a young guy like that, is lay out and taste test things. And be like, do I want to be in finance? Do I want to be an artist? Or, just kind of taste test different things. Do the Ikigai test as an example. Assess what that is. And then once you have a good, consult God, once you find that thing, then go find somebody that is 10 times smarter than you, that's been doing it for multiple decades, and go solve their problems. Go find out how to solve their problems. Don't ever ask for how much you're going to make for a while, because if you're working with, and that goes along with, make sure the person you're looking for as a mentor has super high integrity, and you can tell that by a track record and a resume, because if you're working with the right person, they will eventually pay you.
Yep.
And they'll eventually give you what you're looking for. So don't ask, don't put your hand out before providing value, and then do it an unreasonable amount of reps of solving that person's problem until you are their partner. Or some kind of substantial, you get a referral in that, and make sure to self-study in your off time. Like, if you're not ruthlessly committed to self-studying and self-learning, go work for somebody else for the rest of your life. That's gonna be my biggest thing. If you don't
There's
have
nothing wrong with that.
There's nothing wrong with that. Honestly, no shame in that game. I personally, as a general statement, I do not think everyone's built for entrepreneurship. Sometimes I see people that are just climbing up the corporate ladder, happy lives, have all their weekends. I'm like, you know what? More power to you. like, let me help you invest your money so you can do more of that.
There you go.
But yeah, we'll close that. Thank you, Brandon, for making the drive up, and always great to see you, man. Grateful to have you in Crown and Nash, and look forward to see where things go, man.
Thanks, guys.
Yep.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate you having me.